Hi guys and welcome back. My name is Amanda for those that haven't been here before and for those that have returned. Hi. Let's get to cooking. So I've been doing onion for the past few days and the place smells like a garlic factory as well as an onion factory. Garlic's been going for the past couple of days, filling these pantry shelves behind me once again with some stock that I have been using over the past month and a bit, 6 weeks I think it's been since we did any grocery shopping. And so today's challenge is to do some baking. I need to do a caramel Anzac slice that one is try to make it as gluten-free as possible, and two, reduce the amount of sugar in it because it's got quite a lot of sugar in it. And then three, obviously just to use ingredients that I've got in the shelves in my cupboards. So I've had a look at the lower pantry down here, which contains a lot of my canned items, and then the main kitchen cupboard, which contains the baking items, and I'll show you those pantries. And I'm pretty sure I've got enough of the ingredients that I can alter the recipe enough, or at least change it. Now, if it works, then we're all going to be watching me bake some delicious Anzac caramel slice. If it doesn't work, then you won't be seeing this video. All right, let's have a look, see whether or not I have what I think I have in the cupboards. I'm pretty sure I've got 1 can of condensed milk. Because it's dairy, I don't normally have it in the house, but I think there is 1 can of condensed milk. I know there's a can of condensed oat milk, but not sweetened, which is fine. I could use that, but that would require me turning it into sweetened condensed milk, which is not something I'm aiming on doing today. So I have a typical can of condensed milk that I'm sure I've got. Let's check in the cupboards. Okay, so kitchen cupboard, nothing special. This is just a standard double door kitchen pantry, and this is how it's always stocked. I haven't restocked or done anything. It's actually quite low compared to what it normally has in it. But what I need is just a few ingredients from this area and the baking area as well. So I knew I wouldn't have rolled oats because I fed them all to the goats a couple of years ago, and the horse. So I knew I didn't have any rolled oats in the house, but I knew that I still had some instant porridges. So I'm pretty certain that I can use the instant porridge instead. It may contain gluten. It does say that in the packaging, may contain gluten, because the processing plant that makes this product also does rolled oats, which means the leftover gluten would be in the machinery. So I understand how the factories work, so they don't clean them down between batches. So there may be some gluten in that. Either way, I'll consider this possibly will give me a gluten spike. So I just need to be aware of that. So I'll reduce as much gluten as I can for the rest of the ingredients. So in a former video that I've posted before, how I go about making my own plain flour using tapioca starch as well as white rice flour, and potato starch as well. So that's what the plain flour mix looks like. The recipe I've got calls for brown sugar, dark brown sugar. I've got a light brown sugar, and it does call for 3/4 cup. And I will put the recipe that I'm going to make in the description area, and I will also put the original recipe as well, so you can have a look and see if you want to make either one, for those that don't want to make it gluten-free. So yeah, 3/4 cup of the brown sugar. I'm using light brown sugar. I need 125 grams of butter, and luckily I went to Kirkland's, which was Costco, about 6 or so weeks ago, and managed to get my hands on some of their butter. I've also got maple syrup that I'm going to use instead of golden syrup. Coconut, desiccated coconut. Couldn't find a plain evaporated milk, sweetened condensed milk, so instead I'm going to use one that's already been turned into caramel, since I'm making a caramel slice, so I figured that's fine. A bit of baking soda and some additional caramel. Let's put this recipe together. Alright, so in my bowl I have got 4 packets of the instant porridge mix. I've got 1/2 cup of the light brown sugar, and I've got 1 cup of gluten-free flour added to that. I also just need to add some coconut to this and then just mix it well together. And then I just need to add 125 grams of melted butter to this as well. Now to the dry mix, we're then going to add another 1.5 teaspoons of baking soda. Typical, Anzac biscuit recipe would be baking soda. And I've just heated up my butter and some of the caramel topping. Or your sweetened condensed milk just needs to be heated up so that those two items combine together, and we're going to add them into this mix. And I was just thinking, if I wanted to make this dairy free, I could have used coconut oil instead of using the butter. Doesn't matter, I'm using butter now. So I have 125 grams of, I've used salted butter in this one because the recipe calls for salt, so I'm not going to add additional salt to the recipe. And I've added about half a can of the top and fill, which would be 395 gram can. I've used about half, so maybe we'll say 200 grams. Recording this makes it easier for me to write the recipe in future as well. Because baking for somebody with an intolerance of gluten or dairy, or my daughter's vegan, I'm gluten intolerant, I can't have it for medical reasons, and I shouldn't have dairy either. So trying to exclude those couple of things and finding recipes and then making them fit sometimes can be a little bit difficult. So I'll give this a mix through first. So I'm just going to add the 1/4 cup of maple syrup that replaces golden syrup. And that should be enough to combine this to what would be the consistency of an Anzac biscuit base normally. Looks pretty good to me. Okay, so I'm going to put that mix in the bottom of a 22 centimetre pan, and then I'll put some more caramel on the top, and we'll bake it in the oven. Okay, all in the pan. I've got my oven preheating 180 degrees Celsius, and I'm just going to put the remainder of the caramel topping over the top of this. I'm going to bake it for about 25 minutes and see how it comes out. Top layer caramel on, which will be the middle layer in the total. So we've done the base, the middle layer, and then the final layer is the dark chocolate over the top. But let's bake this for 25 minutes and see how it comes up. Alright, still got about another 10 minutes to go. But I just realised I don't have chocolate in the house. I've got plenty of chocolate powder, but not chocolate. What I do have though is I saved the ganache, or the icing mixture, from a rich chocolate cake that I made several weeks ago, and instead of throwing it away, for some reason I decided to keep it. So in keeping with the pantry challenge, yay, I'm going to get rid of this. So I'm just going to heat up some butter and some milk, and I'll prepare a icing frosting topping to go on top of this slice instead of what would normally be a chocolate fondant or some dark chocolate. Okay, so icing mixture ready just to beat up for a couple of minutes. Oh my goodness, it's looking pretty good. It smells amazing. Anything's better than that garlic. It's looking pretty good. Alright. 10 more minutes. Got my frosting ready for the top. I put this in the oven just for the last couple of minutes just to soften it up a little bit more to go on top of that caramel slice once it's cooled down. Okay, straight out of the oven. That's looking pretty good. I don't mind that. I've just popped the chocolate frosting mix back into the oven for a couple of minutes just to soften, and I'm just going to pop this into the freezer just to quickly cool a little bit before I put the icing on top, and then I'm going to let it cool completely and cut it open. Well, that turned out pretty good actually. Let's give it a taste. It's lovely and moist. Tastes like an Anzac biscuit. It's quite nutty. Actually, I don't mind that apple and cinnamon. The cinnamon flavour through it's quite nice. Next time I do Anzac biscuits, I might actually add some cinnamon to that. Overall, I'm pretty happy with that. Alright. We'll see how that goes. Oh, it'd be good with some walnuts. That would actually make a perfect brownie slice. Okay, need to write this recipe down and keep this one. So this will be my chocolate brownie, but gluten-free version. I can make it dairy-free, like I said, by taking out the butter and changing to coconut oil. And that's coconut cream. Okay. Hasn't turned out too bad. I don't mind that. That's not going to last long in the house with everybody else. And I have just the friend who wants a chocolate cake, so it'll be perfect for morning tea. Now, back to the ever drying garlic. That's tomorrow's job. Still got a few hours to go. Okay, thanks for joining me. Bye now. So if you want to come along and join the pantry challenge and participate, it's just the same as I was put in. No warning, it's basically a zombie apocalypse. All stores are closed, essentially 2020 back in lockdown once again, and no shopping for the household at all is the rules. I am allowed to shop for livestock and the animals, however, but not for the kitchen pantries. Now that I opened up that kitchen pantry, which is the baking pantry and not the canning pantry, I've actually come across a really large 3.6 kilogram can of pineapple pieces. I didn't even know it was in there. So that's the reason we do the pantry challenge, is to go through and to rotate the stock. So this one's use by date is still years away, 2029. That being said, it is a big can, so I'll probably process this into smaller half-pint jars so that I'm able to use it a lot easier when I'm adding it to yogurt or pizzas. I don't need to open such a big can. So, but I will reprocess this the same method as when you're processing pineapple for the first time. And I actually have fresh pineapple out in the garden as well that I also need to bring in. So it's a perfect time that I found this can. I'll be able to do them all together. Okay, thanks for joining me. Bye now.